Well, if you've seen the title of this video, this is going to be a very different discussion about the movie The Snowman than many other critics and reviewers have talked about recently. Right up front, that is not me defending the movie. Honestly, The Snowman has supplanted itself as my least favorite film of all time. It was a disaster on every aspect, on every level, but I figure there is one good thing to glean from it, and that is, with a film so devastatingly awful, this will provide future filmmakers, directors, and studios to take a look at something so atrocious and learn to be better. Because if history has taught us anything, when the greatest tragedies arrive and they pass, that allows the society involved to become better in the future. So what I'm gonna do in this video is go down a list of elements I believe were the worst parts of The Snowman, talk about what should have been changed, and hopefully if there's any future filmmakers, directors, and studio heads who haven't seen The Snowman or have seen The Snowman and want to be better from it, they can watch this video and learn not what to do. And with that being said, let's jump right into the deep end. And one of the biggest problems here is the fact that the film wasn't even completed when it was put together. Director Thomas Alfredson, even before the film was put into wide release, came out and said they couldn't shoot 10 to 15% of the script that they had put together. And it's not as if Thomas Alfredson is a bad director. Let the right one in. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the guy has proved his worth. In my opinion, the biggest problem here is studio interference. Listen, I understand that there is a deadline for all things. There is a certain budget for all things. But studio heads, listen. If you want people to come back to the theater and see your film over and over and over again, you can't rush the creative heads of the movie. There was a large portion of this script left on the cutting room floor. And let's think, what if that 10 to 15% of the script would have been that piece to have saved it? And what if The Snowman was given a little bit more time to be created, to be thought through, to be functioned on? It would have been a much better movie, considering who was involved with it. If a film takes 1 year, great. If it takes 2 years, fantastic. If it takes 3 years to make, it's all fantastic. But the fact is, you need to give your creators and everybody enough time to create the best movie they can make. Alright, next up, we gotta talk about the characters. You want people to come back to the theater? You gotta make characters that people actually care about. If you look at Michael Fassbender, Rebecca Furguson, J.K. Simmons, Val Kilmer in this movie, the actors did their darndest to bring these characters to life, but at the end of the day, they weren't given much to work with. These characters were unlikable, they were poorly written for the big screen, and let's face it, Michael Fassbender, for the majority of this movie, was drunk, he was asleep, and he only really went into action a few given times. And action isn't really what makes or breaks a character, but in all honesty, there wasn't enough in Michael Fassbender's character to actually make anybody latch onto him, because for a big chunk of this movie, he's very, very unlikable. Here's the thing with that statement though, you can turn an unlikable character into a likable character that you root for, even if that person is a villain. Let's take a look at Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, completely despicable human being, but he was written in such a way where you saw his ambition, you saw what his home life was like. He was put together and constructed and portrayed by the actor in such a way that he had your attention from scene one. Now, when it comes to Harry Hole, which is the name of Michael Fassbender's character in this movie, like the movie itself, his character feels rushed, he's dull, he's boring, he doesn't really do anything of any interest. And while I may be talking about Michael Fassbender, that really does extend to every other character in this big mess. You want to know how to make a good character? Here you go. Make them have likenesses, make them have weaknesses, make them vulnerable, make them strong. Write them in such a way so they grab the audience's attention from the beginning. But if there's nothing about the character that we can latch onto, the audience is just going to be taken out of of the movie. And everything that I've just said about the characters, it can be extended to the script as well. Because for half of the movie, the script, everything, it was boring. Second half of the movie, it was nonsense. Dialogue that didn't make any sense or made the audience burst out loud laughing with the absurdity of it. For a film like this, you really need to go about constructing your script like you do your characters. Because a murder mystery like this, or like Silence of the Lambs, is completely character driven. The script has to be written around the characters, and the story has to be around the characters so it works, it fits, it engages the audience. Okay, and when you're putting a film together, toss out the fluff stuff that doesn't add anything to the movie. And this doesn't just apply to film, this applies to making videos on YouTube. Guys, I make videos every week. I review videos every week. But there is a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor, or I just toss out because it doesn't add anything. In a theatrical movie, it is integral that you toss out everything that doesn't need to be there. Why does there need to be character that grinds on top of Michael Fassbender? And it doesn't do anything for the plot. I mean, why was that even in there? And when you come up with an ending that is as poorly put together as this one was, there's no reason for it. So my main point here is, I know it'll take a little bit longer to comb through all the footage, but when you find something that doesn't need to be there, that doesn't do anything for the characters, the plot, the audience, or the engagement the audience will have in the film, just get rid of it. And if you feel it's important, but it still doesn't really add anything, then put it on the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray when the film goes out of theaters and goes into Blu-ray. Alright, we're moving right along, and now we gotta get to my biggest pet peeve about this film. And that's the editing in this movie. Directors, editors, producers, studio heads, when you are putting a movie together, if you want your audience to pay attention, don't put so many jump cuts in your movie. I use a lot of jump cuts inside of my videos to help get my point across. But when it's a theatrical movie, if you've got 60 jump cuts within a 2-minute time frame, that doesn't really attract the audience in. It just pulls them out and gives them a headache. One of the biggest reasons why I threw up after getting out of the movie theater was because of how many cuts were strewn throughout the entire runtime of this thing. Cuts and jump cuts are important to a movie, and I'm not saying that every movie needs to have long extended cuts like Birdman, or like Mother, or like La La Land. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it'd be nice if we could get a couple of scenes, or some action scenes, or what have you, where we don't have to watch 25 jump cuts within 25 seconds. I mean, it's not just with action scenes inside of The Snowman. It is literally with the emotional scenes, with the flashback scenes, with the scenes between every character in the movie. There were so many jump cuts in this movie, I had a hard time paying attention. And studio heads, everybody that works on movies, you've got to understand, those kinds of elements in films, they are distracting and they're destructive. And I'm sorry to say, but with the storytelling of this movie, it feels as though my 6-year-old niece could have made it. For those of you aspiring to make a script, I encourage you to not only look at the script yourself, but find friends, pay somebody, have somebody go over the script with you, or heck, even help you write the script so you can come up with the best possible product that you can. Alright, and that'll about sum up my thoughts. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about this movie because it is really an atrocious mess and it should not have ever been able to happen. But I want to get your guys' input on this. What was your least favorite part of The Snowman? What do you think could have been done to make The Snowman better? I'm just hoping at some point studios will realize that putting together a choppy mess like this, it doesn't go into anybody's benefit. But as always, it is what you guys say that does matter. So whatever your thoughts may be about anything I've said here today, or whatever is on your mind, leave those comments down below telling me those thoughts. And if you like what you've seen here, and you want to see more, click right there and subscribe and become part of the fray of nerds who love cinema. You all have a fantastic day.